Hello chess friends and welcome to Azadov's chess channel and welcome to my basics in chess series with some middle game strategy again. Today I wanted to talk about some bishop pairs again, and in my previous video, in the introduction video from the bishop pair series, I've told you that we are creating sort of a mini series. I think at least we will have 3 or 4 videos with the bishop pair, because I think it's a really important thing that you should know how you should play with the bishop pair. And the main idea for your opponent while playing against the bishop pair is to get rid of your bishop pair. So basically it's not a hard idea for him. He just chasing your bishops, try to get rid of one of them, and of course simplify the position. So the instructive game that I wanted to show you with such ideas is a game by Alexander Alekhine against Conung Hugh O'Donnell Alexander. And here Alexander with the white pieces played against this very annoying Boga Indian defense, and you'll see why this opening is really tough to handle for white. And basically black's idea is to first get rid of his bishop pair, and then after that chase your own bishop pair. So as I said, you should simply stay on your advantage. You should play simply and try to go even to an endgame with your bishop pair. And while playing against maybe your opponent's bishop and knight, you should memorize 2 things, how you should play against this knight in a middle game. The same as in an endgame, and I've created this endgame video with this bishop versus knight endgame, and you'll see the link of that video, of course, at the end of this video. It's basically the same. Like in a middle game, like in an endgame, you should really chase the knight. So that means you should really attack the knight, get it back, try to force it back, and you should also restrict the knight's mobility. So that means basically what we have to do is play against your opponent's knight. It seems to you that again this is something too simple to memorize, but it's really simple as that. So you see, you should restrict your knight's ability, your opponent's, of course, knight's ability, and you should also attack his knight, get him, push him back, and of course gain some space. I think this game that I wanted to show you is a perfect example of this kind of types of games. So here we have d4 played by Alexander Alekhine. We have knight on f6, c4, knight, now e6, knight on f3, bishop on b4. So now knight from b to d2, and you see, we want, of course, to have the knight on c3. It's the most natural square for the knight, but in this line, in this anti-Nimzo Indian defense, you see, we are simply going for this knight from b to d2 idea in order to prevent black here maybe to capture and doubling up the pawns, and of course simplify the position here. So here b6 was played. Now we have g3, bishop on g7, bishop on g2, and now after castling, black plays really on a simple idea. He first takes out the knight on d2. We have queen takes on d2, and now black's idea is, you see, this positional pin here. So we have here discovered the attack of the bishop on b7, on the bishop on g2, and of course this is really sort of a positional pin on this knight, because you're not able to, of course, to move your knight maybe here on e5, or maybe somewhere else, maybe here knight on h4, because you have here a very strong positional pin by black. And of course black's idea, as I said, is really simply to trade off the bishop pair. So he's chasing your bishops, and you should simply, as I said, play a restriction against your opponent's knight. So that means you should really restrict the ability of this knight and of this knight by simply kicking them away and restrict their ability. So here d6 was played with the preparation here to play knight from b to d7, and then after that similar ideas like e5, and maybe even after that even e4, then maybe c6 and d5 with some closing position styles here. So here b3, of course, try to develop the bishop on b2, knight from b to d7, bishop on b2, and now rook on b8, which is even more fixing now this bishop, which is really an important strategical idea, as I said, with this positional pin on the bishop on g2. So we have here rook on d1. Now we have knight on e4 and queen on e3, now f5, and this is now really a complicated position. As I said, we want, while having a bishop pair, we want to open somehow the position, and of course now our advantage can be this bishop that we have, that's on a very good diagonal. And here Alexander Alekhine plays here a strong move d5. Of course he's opening up these files, and the problem is black cannot push the pawn here on e5, because then he will leave this e6 square very weak, and here we could maybe occupy this e square with our own knight, and of course fix it on the 6th rank, which is this so-called octopus knight, and this would be a really annoying thing for black to handle here. But you see, now Alexander Alekhine, as I said, managed to open the position, and of course we again playing simply on the restriction of this knight mobilities, and now we have also blocked out the positional threat by black. We don't have any more this positional pin because we blocked it out with the d5 move. So very strong move, I think, and it meets really with this basic principle ideas in the middle game while playing with the bishop. So here e takes d5, of course e takes d5, now knight on f6, and now knight on h4, also attacking here this f5 pawn. So here queen on d7 was played, and now bishop on h3, very strong move, and now g6. And you see, Alexander Alekhine simply played slowly. He's just attacking these pawns, and now we have a perfect position for our bishops. We have now created a really strong diagonal for the b2 and b2 bishop, and now, as I said, this is now Alexander Alekhine favorite position here, and this is of course a better position for white. So here, as I said, f3, so restricting the knight's mobility, kicking the knights away. Simple idea. I think it's not something that you have to it's not hard to memorize. Now the knight has to move, knight on c5, of course, and while playing against these knights, and while having your own bishop pair, you don't have to worry maybe so much about this backward pawn situation, because we can sometimes just even sacrifice pawns here, maybe with e4 moves, just in order to open some diagonals and really make these bishops work. So queen on g5, and now the problem is that if knight takes here, or the bishop takes, we have here a very strong move, knight takes on g6, because then really, if bishop takes, maybe we can retake with the rook. Let's see this line. If black takes the pawn on d5, then we can simply take, and now knight on g6. If h takes g6, we have queen takes on g6, and this of course checkmate. So that's why after queen on g5, queen on g7 was played, and now b4, again with this idea to just kick this knights away. Knight from c to d7 was played, and now e4. Very strong. You see, if black takes now with this pawn, of course we can take this knight on d7. The knight cannot recapture because of the pin, and if the queen takes the bishop, again we take with the bishop the knight on f6. So now the bishops work really fine, as you can see. So that's why here after e4, knight takes on e4 was played with the discovered attack on the bishop, but here Alexander Alekhine finds also very nice move. Here we have queen on c1. Now the knight has to retreat. Here knight on f6, and now we have bishop on f5. If you have if you play g takes f5, now you can play simply knight takes on f5, and there's really no good square for the queen. If the queen goes here on f7, you get the fork here, and the same also here on g6, then you get the fork here on e7, and if the queen moves here on h8, then you get queen on g5, also with a very strong attack. So here that in this position, after bishop takes on f5, king on h8 was played. Now bishop on e6. Now we have a very good square for our bishop. Bishop on a6, rook on e1. Now we have knight on e5, and again restricting the knight's mobility and kick it away with the move f4. Here we have knight on d3, rook takes on d3. So you see, with this very strong bishop pair, we don't even mind to give up our rook for a minor piece. So here bishop takes on d3, and now g4, and in this position black resigned, because there's no way to prevent this g5 move, and this is of course a winning game for white. So you see, these bishops are really very well on this very strong diagonals, and black has no counterplay here. So I hope you realize this idea. Let's see again now this opening line. After knight from b to d7, bishop on b2, now rook on b8 and rook on d1. I hope you realize this white's problem with this positional pin. So when you have these positions in which your opponent is threatening to get off of your really strong bishop pair, you should avoid it somehow. Of course, there are many possible positions. I think this is a very good game that explains this idea of your opponents and how you should play against such ideas. So I hope you enjoyed this video. We will continue with the bishop pair in my middle game strategies, and meanwhile you can watch this endgame video with the same idea to restrict your knight's ability, opponent's knight's ability. And you can also of course watch my chess tactics and chess puzzle series, in which I show you all of the possible tactical motifs that can happen in an endgame. And you can also subscribe to my channel. Thanks you for watching, guys, and chess is the best.